The Week 9 review episode of the Bears Talk Underground Kiddies is brought to you by MyBookie. Who else would it be? It's November, guys, when the NFL season is getting into the nitty-gritty. NHL, NBA are starting to heat up, and, well, baseball's gone, so we don't have to worry about that boredom anymore. But if you got bets you want to make, no better place to make them than on MyBookie. Remember, who you're betting on is just as important as who you are betting with, and that's why I always tell you, head over to MyBookie. Trust me, guys, they are the best bet you'll have all season. So, why do I recommend MyBookie, you ask? Well, I'm so glad you did ask. They have in-game live betting, over-unders on fantasy points, and the most rewarding player perks in the business. And right now, MyBookie has a special promotion going on. If you make a deposit after 7 p.m., you get an extra $25 in free play for all deposits over $100, and they will match your deposit dollar for dollar. So what's better than free money? Nothing, I say. So head on over to MyBookie and use the promo code BEARS25 to activate the offer. Visit MyBookie online today. That's MyBookie, MyBookie. And don't forget to use the promo code BEARS25 when creating your account to claim up to $1,000 in free play. And if you do it after 7 p.m. Eastern, you get the extra $25. So it's up to you guys, but I would take the free money. Do it after 7. You can't lose either way. So here's to you, and here's to MyBookie. You play, you win, you get paid. This week on the Bears Talk Underground, with a treacherous 3-game divisional gauntlet ahead and a struggling Buffalo Bills team in their path, the real challenge for our beloved on Sunday was keeping focus of the task at hand, not looking past the Buffalo Bills, and not getting caught in a dreaded trap game. Did the Bears keep their focus, and was it enough to get their 5th win? All of this plus Bear Up and Bear Down on the Week 9 review episode of the Bears Talk Underground.
Hang up the telephone, I hear the dial tone, ringing out loud and I don't know why.
For the second week in a row, the beloved take one of the lesser teams in the AFC to the woodshed and come away with their 5th victory of the season. What's going on, everybody? Larry D back for the Week 9 review episode of the Bears Talk Underground, and it was exactly what I hoped it would be. I would hope that we'd be a bit more efficient, a bit more consistent on offense. However, the defense got its groove back. They put a foot in Buffalo's you-know-what for 4 straight quarters, and the result was a 41-9 thrashing of the Buffalo Bills on the road in Buffalo. So it was, we maintain our spot in first place, and we send the Bills packing, get a 500 record in this 4-game stretch against the AFC East, and it's a bittersweet end to the second quarter of the year because, at worst we should be 3-1. In this stretch. We should be 6-2 right now. I can accept the loss to the Patriots. It's the Miami game that I have the most trouble swallowing, missing the field goal in overtime, even after all the rest of that nonsense with the Albert Wilson plays and whatnot. We still had a chance to win the game. Akeem Hicks with the miraculous play at the goal line to stop Miami from scoring, to give the ball back to our offense. And we put Cody Parkey in a spot to kick a long field goal nonetheless, but a field goal, and we miss it, and we lose. So, yeah, that sucks. But here we are at 5-3 at the halfway mark, equaling last year's win total for the season at the halfway mark. How awesome is that? It's an outstanding job by these Bears, and looking forward to what we have ahead. Something that we've been kind of prefacing for the last couple of weeks, just because we've kind of been staring this in the face, and not something that you necessarily want to do, especially in the NFL, but looking at what's ahead. Very hard not to, with the Jets and the Bills kind of sitting in front of you, and you're staring down the barrel of what the Bears are going to have to do over the next 2.5 weeks which is beat the Lions, the Vikings, and then the Lions again. And that Vikings game just got a whole lot more interesting because the NFL announced today that Bears-Vikings week number 11 has been flexed out of its noontime slot to Sunday Night Football on NBC. So it's a bittersweet thing. The sweet is that the Bears are back on national television. A national TV spot that wasn't on the schedule when it came out. The bitter being that that's 7 fewer hours the Bears have to rest and get ready for the Lions on Thursday on Thanksgiving. I mean, that's the huge negative about that. We were looking at a noon kickoff. Game wraps about 3:20. Now we're not kicking off till about 7:20. Game won't be over until somewhere between 10:30 and 11 o'clock. That's 7 to 8 hours of preparation time in as short a week as the NFL will provide teams throughout the year. That is what the Bears now have to look at. So instead of having, let's just, round it up and say 96 hours, now we've got 88 hours to get ready for this game. And it could make all the difference between how fresh and prepared and ready the Bears are for that Thursday game against the Lions on Thanksgiving Day. So just kind of keep that. Not looking at it to make excuses or anything. God forbid if we do lose on Thanksgiving Day. It's just that, like I said, it's a bittersweet thing. 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other, however you want, whatever cliche you want to go with. It's awesome that the Bears are being bumped down, however you want to say it, to Sunday Night Football. They're going to be on national TV, division rivalry, first matchup with the Vikings that, if the Bears take care of business on Sunday against the Lions, that game is going to be for first place because the Vikings are off week 10. So they got 2 weeks to get ready for the Bears on Sunday Night Football in Soldier Field. And if the Bears get past the Lions, we'll be 6-3. The Vikings will be 5-3-1. And, just percentage points behind us. And if they win, we'll be 6-4. They'll be 6-3-1, and therefore in first place in the division. So the Bears handle business on Sunday, which I'm cautiously optimistic that they will. I mean, it is the Lions after all. The Bears have had such a tough time beating them over the last few years, but they get it done with against the Lions on Sunday. That game against the Vikings, it's already been amped up, moved to prime time and all that kind of stuff. It will, throw a little bit more gas on the fire that it will be for first place in the NFC North. So very, very interesting. So it was awesome to see that announcement, but then the first thought afterwards was like, all right, well, now the NFL has stolen about 8 hours to get ready in a very short window that we're going to have between that game and not only that, we play in the earliest time slot on Thanksgiving Day. We play at like 11:30, 12:30 Eastern, whatever time it is where you live. I know my Brits are like 3-4 in the afternoon out there across the pond, but over here it's 11:30 in the morning is when that game is going to kick off. So we got the latest possible game on Sunday and the earliest possible kickoff on Thursday against the Lions on Thanksgiving Day. So, yeah, that kind of sucks. I mean, it would have been much better for the Bears if they'd also kind of flexed the Bears and Lions into that nighttime primetime spot, so then they would have a full 4 days to get ready. But instead, we're basically it's like 3.5 days that we have now to get ready for the Lions. Next Thursday, not next Thursday, but 2 Thursdays from now. So, I mean, the thing, it'll be here before you know it too, which is crazy. But nonetheless, never mind all that. The Bears played a game yesterday. They won by 32 points. The first quarter wasn't all that great. It was actually kind of annoying to watch. The Bears were, not very good on offense. They were great on defense. The Bills were horrible on offense and decent on defense. We knew coming into this thing that the Bills had a good defense, but would they be good enough to help neutralize the Bears and keep their offense in it? After one quarter, the answer was yes. After that, that's where things kind of fell apart. But we'll talk about the first quarter first. We come out kind of struggling, and Peterman leading the offense for the Buffalo Bills was always kind of going to be a losing proposition, even according to our good friend Sean Murphy, who helped us preview the game last week. He was not looking forward to seeing Peterman out there against the Bears with or without Khalil Mack. And what we got in the first quarter was something close to what I was expecting. I was expecting at least a 7-0 lead out of the Bears in the first quarter, but unfortunately I did not get my wish.
Knee-jerk reaction to the first quarter, the Bears and the Bills, and it's been a display of offensive futility up to this point. Neither offense can get anything going, and anytime that the Bears do, they shoot themselves in the foot one way or the other, either with the offensive line forgot to block on 3rd and 1 and got stuffed, had to punt. We just had a 3rd and 5 get converted with a run by Tariq Cohen, only to have it come back for a holding penalty on the rookie James Daniels. So now it's 3rd and 15, and that's how we'll be starting the second quarter. On defense, the defense has been pretty great so far. We gave up 1 first down, and the Bills have been able to do very little else thus far. It's been a game field position battle so far that the Bills are losing and the Bears are winning and not taking advantage of. So, I mean, we need to take advantage of these opportunities. I believe we're still in field goal range, so we don't necessarily need a first down on 3rd and 15, although it would be nice. But remember, this is an offense that's only averaging 11 points a game. So if we can put 7 points on the board, maybe even 10 before halftime, we're already in a great position to win the game. So the Bears need to quit screwing around on offense and put some points on the board so that the Bills are trying to play from behind. Because when they play with the lead, they've won football games, both of them this year. When they're playing from behind, they can't do it. So let's get it together on offense and see if we can't put this game away before halftime.
So obviously I wasn't worried about where the game was headed, and that's mostly because the offense of the Buffalo Bills was as advertised. We talked about it with Sean Murphy when we had him on the show. Every bit of studying that I did that I could get my hands on prior to our conversation, I saw what I expected to see. With or without Nathan Peterman, if the Bears did well bottling up the run of the Buffalo Bills and put it in the hands of Nathan Peterman, that is exactly what we wanted. We wanted him in the pocket, possibly throwing us interceptions, making mistakes, or getting sacked because nobody was open and the pass rush was bearing down on him, no pun intended. And, that's essentially what we were getting in the first quarter. It's just that we couldn't back it up on offense and take advantage of it because we were playing like the 2017 Bears. Constant penalties, shooting ourselves in the foot. And like I said, that one run from Tariq Cohen that got us a first down, it went from being 3rd and 5 and getting a 7-8 yard gain on, to get a first down to being 3rd and 15 and, killing the drive. And it was just painful to, and annoying to sit there and watch, especially since we've gotten so used to the Bears being, mistake-free as far as penalties are concerned. It was very rare in this short 8-game season thus far to see the Bears rack up one penalty after another the way that they did against Buffalo on Sunday, and especially in that first half. They had 10 penalties by halftime against the Bills. But as you'll hear me say, pretty much the first thing I say in the next knee-jerk reaction, the second quarter, it's a completely different ball game this time around.
Knee-jerk reaction to the Bears and the Bills after the second quarter, and it's a completely different ball game now because it was 0-0 after 1. It is 28-0 at halftime in favor of our beloved Chicago Bears. A couple of interceptions were sprinkled in there with Bears with a pick six from Leonard Floyd, of all people. Who got on the same play his first interception and his first touchdown of the year. Still looking for that first sack, though. So good job, Leonard. And it's been a funny quarter, man. The Bears polished off that drive that we ended the first quarter with. They actually converted that 3rd and 15 and finished off the drive with a short, I think it was just a 1-yard run from Jordan Howard. And then basically Then Eddie Jackson forces a fumble on Kelvin Benjamin, picks it up, runs it back 65 yards for a touchdown. And right there, the Bears basically have all the penalties all the points that they will need. We'll talk about penalties here in a second. But all the points that they would need against a team that's averaging 10.9 points a game. Then a few minutes later, they add to it. Kyle Fuller makes a play on a ball. It bounces up into the air into Leonard Floyd, who was in coverage, runs it in for about a 22-yard touchdown. The Bears are up 21-0. And then once again, Tariq Cohen, who is specializing today in giving up yardage, could possibly get caught, lose 10 yards on a play, somehow was able to turn the corner and gain yardage after that. Did that on a punt return and damn near ran the thing back for a touchdown. Got stopped around the 20, and the Bears polished that off with a long touchdown run from Jordan Howard, his second of the day. So anybody who's got Jordan Howard in fantasy, having a good day so far because he's got at least 12 points on the board for you. But that's it. We're up 28-0 right now, and we start with the football to start the second half. And the only thing the Bears really need to work on in this football game is penalties. Charles Leno has 3 false start penalties right now. James Daniels with the holding penalty that set us back in the first quarter. Converted on 3rd and 5, had to bring it back because of a holding penalty that knocked us out of field goal range and stuff like that. Those little penalties, I think the Bears had 6 or 7 in the first half, which is uncharacteristic of the Bears this year. So we shore up the penalties. We clean everything else up. The defense has been awesome today. 2 defensive touchdowns. I don't think we've sacked Peterman, but we're constantly in his face, and the Bills cannot run the football. We've got this game well in control, and we've got a 4-touchdown lead against a team that barely breaks double digits in each game.
So with that last statement, we have a 4-touchdown lead on a team that has trouble breaking double digits in each game. It was pretty much on cruise control in the second half, or so one would think, and that's exactly what happened there in the third quarter. But we'll talk about that in a second. First of all, we did not get the ball back after we started with the football. We got the opening kickoff. The Bills deferred, so I was wrong about that. But it was just an easy second quarter. We put up 28 points. With 2 defensive touchdowns, 2 offensive touchdowns. I mean, talk about balance. And then that run by Tariq Cohen. I mean, I posted on Twitter yesterday, does anybody else cover their eyes when Cohen starts to pull that off? Starts pulling that garbage where he runs upfield, he starts giving up ground, and all of a sudden turns it around. And somehow when he turns around, he now has a wall of blockers that will just create a lane for him to just run 60 yards down the field. That's what he did on that San Francisco punt return that he ran back last year, and that's what he did yesterday. He turned a whole lot of nothing into a whole lot of something, made for a very short field and a very short drive for Jordan Howard. I think it was actually only about an 18-yard run for him, so not exactly a long touchdown run, like I said. I guess long for Jordan Howard, since I think all of his touchdowns are from within 5 yards until yesterday. So, one thing was for certain by halftime yesterday, the team was having fun. The one of the cool things that they did yesterday was they did one of those poses in the end zone. I think after Jordan Howard's second touchdown, basically the whole team was in the end zone posing and and whacking and fooling around in the end zone, pointing at it. Tariq Cohen came and dove in and kind of laying on his side and whatnot. And it was obvious they were having fun, playing as well as they were in the first half there, and taking a huge advantage against a team that absolutely is a practice in futility and trying to score points for the Bills. A 28-0 lead at halftime. And funny thing was, they came back out in the second half. Nathan Peterman was still the quarterback. They were still plugging away, and the third quarter was a little bit more of the same, but the Bears and the Bills trading field goals. But for the most part, the Bears keeping their foot on Buffalo's throat and not allowing them to get anything going on offense.
Knee-jerk reaction to the third quarter, the Bears and the Bills, and the Bears and the Bills traded field goals. We're at 31-3 right now. The Bills have completely abandoned the run because they're down 28. They got to throw the ball more, which is kind of playing right into the Bears' hands. They're playing a bit softer on coverage, so Peterman's stats aren't going to be that horrendous. Aside from the fact that just before the end of the quarter, Peterman threw his third interception of the football game. Now, this is the first one that you can actually put on Peterman. The first two, the tips, the pick six to Leonard Floyd and the other interception were both like tip drill type plays. They were actually not Peterman's fault at all, actually. He put the ball where it needed to be, and his receivers ended up not being able to catch it or hang on to it. And the Bears came away with picks on statistically what would be interceptions on those two plays. But, the Bears have the football right now. They're deep in Bills territory, looking to add at least another field goal to extend this drive. I'd say the objective here in the fourth quarter is to just get it over with, get out as healthy as possible, maybe even sit Mitch for the fourth quarter to get him ready for this divisional stretch we have coming up ahead. We're up 31-3 against the worst offense in football. Pretty sure we're going to be 5-3 when these 15 minutes are up.
So let's talk a bit more about those turnovers. I didn't really get into it after the second quarter. Knee-jerk reaction. The one from Leonard Floyd was both were. I think Kyle Fuller was involved in both turnovers. Actually, the tip ball that landed in Floyd's hands. People wanted a pass interference call on that, and as a matter of fact, even though Peterman was about 10 yards from his receiver, he was backpedaling to avoid the rush, and threw the ball to his receiver, who was still inside a yard of the line of scrimmage. So the contact was actually legal, and that's what was explained by Dean Blandino for the rules expert for Fox, and right into the open arms of Leonard Floyd, who ran in for a touchdown from about 19 yards out. The other interception, which is, I would rule it more of a fumble than an interception, but that they're statistically calling it interception, so it goes against Peterman, even though it wasn't his fault. A pass, I believe, to I don't know if it was Kelvin Benjamin or Zay Jones, somebody like that, catches the football, and Kyle Fuller just stayed after the ball. He kind of raked it up, and he popped it out of his hands, and the receiver went to grab it with his free hand, his left arm, and ended up tipping it up into the air, and Adrian Amos comes diving right in, gets his hands underneath it, and it's an interception for the Bears. And just like that, we've got another turnover from the Bills. And then I talked about the Eddie Jackson fumble. He just ripped the ball out of Kelvin Benjamin's hands, picked it up, ran uncontested into the end zone for the touchdown. And there it was. I mean, that's exactly the kind of defensive performance we were hoping for against this football team, was for the offense to do what it needed to do and for the defense to impose its will on the weakest offense that the NFL has right now. It was very lopsided on that field for the majority of the football game. So that's exactly what we wanted to see. And then as the game went along, the Bears, the pressure that they were having earlier in the game, they started connecting on those. We ended up with 4 sacks in the game. Isaiah Irving got in on it. Adrian Amos got one. And I think Aaron Lynch got one as well. And there was one more person that I'm missing. But, the defense started to seriously impose its will in the fourth quarter, despite the fact that they got a referee-assisted touchdown in garbage time yesterday. You'll hear me talk about it in the knee-jerk reaction. I'll talk about it a bit more afterwards.
Knee-jerk reaction to the fourth quarter, the Bears and the Bills. As the seconds tick away, the Bears are in victory formation. We got our 5th win of the year, matching last year's win total for the season at the midway mark. An amazing accomplishment for Matt Nagy and the rest of his coaching staff and our beloved Chicago Bears. 41-9, the final of this one. The Bears just dominant. I mean, that second quarter sealed the game, and Heck, we could have stopped scoring after 14 and things would have been a little bit more interesting. But nonetheless, it would have been enough for us to get the win today. It was, and the one touchdown was a garbage touchdown for the Bills. They got a couple of, like 2 or 3 really bogus calls that went against the Bears' defense that kept extending the drive and giving them yards that the Bills didn't earn. So the Bears technically have given up their first rushing touchdown of the season, and the Bills broke a 30-something drive streak without scoring a touchdown. But it never should have happened. The referees, I guess, just were bored and wanted to give the Bills something to do and kept throwing penalty flags on the Bears until the Bills finally got into the end zone. But overall, it was dominant. Just like last week against the Jets, the game was never in question, and especially after the second quarter when the Bears put up 28 points, 14 on offense, 14 on defense, and then added 13 more in the second half to cruise to a 41-9 victory. So now we've done it. Mack and Robinson have rested the last 2 games. They should be healthy enough to help the Bears get through this all-important stretch, these next 3 games in a very short span of time. We got 3 divisional games, 2 against the Lions, 1 against the Vikings. Weeks 10, 11, and 12 going to go bang, bang, bang. And where the Bears are standing after that will pretty much tell you what this team is going to do for the rest of the year. So this is the biggest stretch. It's coming, and I think the Bears are ready for it.
God, I hope we are, man. It would be really disappointing if we came out on the wrong end of this 3-game stretch. I mean, they're divisional games. We're about to play 2 teams that we always have a tough time with. And, it's lining up for the Bears to be successful. Detroit's not playing good football right now. The Vikings are coming to Chicago, where traditionally they are not successful. So the Bears are a much better football team now than they were week 5 last year, the last time the Vikings were in Soldier Field, Mitchell Trubisky's debut, and all the rest of that nonsense. We're a better team. We're a more complete team, obviously, than we were a year ago, and we should have a lot of things we didn't have in that first Minnesota game last year as well, like, I don't know, Khalil Mack or Allen Robinson or Trey Burton or Taylor Gabriel, Anthony Miller, shall I go on? So, it's a much more even matchup this time around. I still think that the Vikings are the class of the division right now, so it's going to be a huge game, and it's appropriate that it's going to be on national television. So it just sucks that it really takes a chunk out of our preparation time for our second Detroit game. And, as you'll probably hear Jeremy and I talk about when I have him back on the show for the preview on Thursday night, this is the truest the truest rivalry in the division, because these games are always competitive. It's always anybody's game. It's just that, unfortunately for us Bear fans, the Lions have won 9 out of the last 10. So this is a streak that we need to break hardcore. I mean, this is a game. I want this game bad on Sunday. I want to beat the Lions into the turf. I don't want there to be any doubt whatsoever. I don't want one of these nail biters where it comes down to a last field goal or trying to stop the Lions on 4th down or any of that nonsense. I want to be talking about the fourth quarter next week the way that I was talking about the fourth quarter this week, complaining about some garbage touchdown the Bills got or the Lions got at the end that made the game seem a lot closer than it actually was, and so on and so forth. That's what I want out of this game. The Lions gave up 10 sacks to the Vikings on Sunday. I'd say if the Bears could get at least half that, we will be hugely successful against the Lions next Sunday. But getting ahead of myself, want to talk a little bit more about this Bills game before we move on to next week. And that garbage touchdown that I talked about, there were 2 right off the top of my head that I can think of. One, a bogus face mask penalty on Roquan Smith, where he never grabbed the face mask on Peterman, but got the flag and the 15 yards for Buffalo. And then the coup de grace, and I think it even happened on 3rd down too. Buffalo's trying to score. They're they're deep in their own they're deep in Bear territory. I think they may even be inside the 5-yard line, and they called Prince Amukamara for pass interference in the back of the end zone on Kelvin Benjamin. When you go back and look at the replay, he never touched Benjamin, and their feet got tangled up in the back of the end zone. That's why they both fell down. That's it. That happens, and that's not a flag. That's incidental contact. You don't penalize the defensive back when he and the receiver's feet get tangled up. But it gave the Bills 4 shots from inside the 1-yard line, and I think Peterman got it on 2nd or 3rd down to get that first touchdown. Their first touchdown, I think it was like 38 drives or something like that. Can you imagine? Jeez. And the first rushing touchdown the Bears have allowed in 2018 in the 8th game of the year, which is pretty awesome considering we played some good football teams this year. So it was totally so bogus. So bogus, in fact, that the Bears ran it right back down the field and scored again to make it 41-9. I was joking with my dad last night that, the referees just kept throwing the flags, like they were allergic to them or something like that. And I was like, maybe the referees huddled up before the Bills got the football and be like, hey, I bet the over. We need to get Buffalo in the end zone so we can score some more points. I got $5,000 on this game or something like that, just because it didn't make any sense what was happening out there. The Bears were not. Granted, they were lousy with penalties yesterday, but the penalties that were called on the Bears on that touchdown drive for the Bills, they weren't penalties. Roquan didn't grab the face mask, and as sure as hell, Amukamara did not interfere with Kelvin Benjamin in the back of the end zone. Their feet got tangled up. So, those calls right there, extending the drive, giving the Bills yardage they did not earn. I think they said it was like a 70-yard drive. I would put at least a good 40 yards in penalties on that. The Bills did not earn that touchdown. They were given that touchdown, in my humble opinion. So, there you have it. That is the review for the Bears and Bills, week number 9, a 41-9 victory for our beloved Chicago Bears, putting them up to 5-3 on the year. So what do you say we go ahead and put a cherry on top of this cupcake with everybody's favorite segment, Bear Up, Bear Down. Remember, guys, use the promo code BEARS25 to take advantage of $25 in free play for all deposits over $100, and MyBookie will match your deposit dollar for dollar up to $1,000. There's nothing in the world better than free money. Believe me, it's awesome. So go ahead out and going out there, see what the lines are for Week 11 in college football. Forgot to mention that earlier. What the lines are going to be Week 10 for the NFL. We got NHL, NBA, college basketball probably isn't too far behind or anything like that. And I'm sure there's something random out there. They always got some really cool prop bets going on as well. As a matter of fact, when I was on the site the other day, I saw there's a prop bet on whether or not Donald Trump will get impeached in his first term. So if you're willing to take some action on that and play the long game on that one, go ahead to MyBookie, MyBookie, and check that out. Don't forget to use the promo code BEARS25 to take advantage of the offer. So, bear up and bear down for week number 9 for the Bears and the Bills, and I don't think anyone will be surprised to hear me say this. It's a defensive-heavy list right now. So, I know, you're so shocked, but here we go. Bear up to Roquan Smith, Danny Trevathan. We'll lump them in together. Both these guys double-digit tackles yesterday, despite some of the bogus penalties that were thrown. Both of them were guilty of a penalty or two, or at least that's how the referees saw it. Roquan had, I think, 13 solo tackles yesterday. Danny Trevathan, I think, had 10 or 11. Just an outstanding performance from our linebackers yesterday. Bottled up that run for the Bills, forcing the football to be thrown by Nathan Peterman, which is the last thing in the world anybody in support of the Buffalo Bills, from the team all the way down to the fan base, wanted yesterday. So, bear up to Eddie Jackson, yet another being in the right place at the right time. And hell, as a matter of fact, he created that play. He's the one that ripped the ball out of Kelvin Benjamin's hands. He's the one that picked the football up and ran it 65 yards in for a touchdown, putting the game out of reach with a 14-0 lead for the Bears on Sunday. Bear up to Adrian Amos. He was the man. He was Johnny on the spot for the fumble / interception that he made on the Kyle Fuller not giving up on the ball until it's out of his hands play in the second quarter. Dove and was able to get his hands underneath it before it touched the ground, giving the football back to the Bears. Bear up to Leonard Floyd. Didn't think I'd say that anytime soon, but was, again, Mr. Johnny on the spot there to catch the deflection off the Kyle Fuller play. Ran it in 19 yards for his first interception and touchdown 2018. But while we're at it, bear down to Leonard Floyd because we're halfway through the season officially. 0 sacks for Leonard Floyd. I mean, if anybody was supposed to benefit from the Khalil Mack trade, it was Leonard Floyd. And despite the fact that he's had a hand injury for the majority of the year, maybe that's limited in things, he has played well in spots. He's doing well against the run, but we drafted him to be a pass rusher, and he has 0 sacks 8 games into a 16-game season. That is unacceptable. So bear down to Leonard Floyd for that. While I'm at it, this is more of an honorable mention, but I want to bring it up while I'm still looking at this. Bear down to the defense in general. A lot of them, there were a handful, I don't know if it was as many as a handful, but there were definitely a few that were bogus, but the defense racked up the penalties yesterday. This is the last thing in the world that we need to be making a habit of heading into this all-important 3-game stretch we're about to go through. You know, the Vikings, the Lions, and the Vikings again, or excuse me, the Lions, the Vikings, and then the Lions again. I got it backwards. You know, we can't be giving them free stuff in these football games, especially that Vikings game on Sunday Night Football. The Lions are kind of the team right now that's kind of tripping over itself from time to time. The Vikings are playing some outstanding football. After a slow start, I think they're like 4-1 since, over the last 5 games. They've really been coming on in the second quarter of the year, so we're catching them at just the wrong time as far as the Bears are concerned. So we can't be making mistakes against the football team that's playing excellent football right now. So we need to cut back on that, especially against that Vikings offense that can be really, really explosive at times. So, I mean, you give them just a little bit of daylight and they will smoke you. So those little opportunities, you know, to get them off of the field, extending drives, holding on third down to give them a first down, and we got to cut back on that. We have to stop that, not cut back on it. Stop it. We have to stop it, you know. So that's an honorable mention, bear down. So not a real one, but I wanted to mention it while we were here. Bear up to Kyle Fuller. You know, he's been playing some good football in this second quarter of the season. He was virtually a ghost in the first quarter or so, but, had a couple interceptions in the Miami game, had another one, I think, against New England in that game as well. Got another one yesterday. So, I mean, he's been getting the job done. I think Kyle Fuller got one yesterday. He's got 4 so far, and that's all that he had, like, in his career up to this point. So Kyle Fuller's been getting the job done in the second quarter of the season, had a solid game yesterday. Pretty much everybody on defense deserves a bear up in one form or another. And the one offensive player I wanted to give a bear up to this week is Jordan Howard. Only had 47 yards rushing, but had the 2 touchdowns and was, for the most part, gaining positive yardage when he had the football yesterday. On the bear downside, we already talked about Leonard Floyd. Charles Leno, I still don't get it. Honestly, I don't. I mean, you don't hear about the guy much, so he's doing his job most of the time. It's just that maybe it's just personal, honestly. I've never been a fan of the guy. I've never, understood what it was that Ryan Pace and the organization see in him, especially when they gave him that extension. So we're stuck with this guy for at least 3 more years and what have you. I've never really saw it. And, granted, the offensive line in general has been better this year, but yesterday he was the drive killer with his penalties and whatnot. And I think he had he had a false start on back-to-back plays there in the second quarter. It was extremely annoying to sit there and watch that. And then finally, the last bear down I give to Mitchell Trubisky. He was off target again yesterday. I mean, I was talking to a buddy of mine yesterday, and I honestly believe that the Bears are a playoff team at this point. I really do think we're going to make the playoffs this year, whether it be as a wild card team or because we win the division. One of the two, I think we're headed to the postseason for at least a wild card game. I think we're at least going to get a wild card game this year. And I honestly believe that if we lose that wild card game, it'll be Trubisky's fault one way or the other, whether it be because he got off to a slow start like he had, and that's something you can't afford to do against a playoff team in the actual playoffs, where he was inaccurate and throwing the ball all over the place and couldn't get going until the second half, but it was too late by then, or he will make some kind of mistake trying to force the ball where it doesn't need to go or where it shouldn't go, get himself picked off and set the team back kind of thing. Granted, he did throw one really insane interception yesterday. I don't know if it was a miscommunication or whatever, but he launched it over the receiver's head to a wide open defensive back for the Buffalo Bills back there in the corner for the one turnover that the Bears had yesterday. And obviously it didn't mean anything in the scheme of things and whatnot. Buffalo came away with nothing on that particular drive thanks to the defense, but he was doing that again. He was missing wide open receivers. He was inaccurate at times. It's frustrating to watch, and we're getting into a very important time, very important stretch of the season. We've been talking about it for weeks leading up to it, and now it's here, and Mitch is still having some of the same issues. And, it's what we've talked about many times over the course of the year. We realize that patience is key with this team, because I still honestly believe 2019 is the year. That's our year. We are going to explode and dominate in 2019. It's going to be murderous to watch the Bears play next year. I honestly believe that 100%. But believing that doesn't mean I want to wait for that. 2018 is here now. We're in a position to be winners this year, and I think the one thing keeping us from or keeping everyone, I should say, from saying the Bears are legit, the Bears are for real, they are the best team in the NFC, or in the NFC North at least, is Trubisky at this point. Now, I know I said last week maybe we need to take a break and be, stop being so critical of him. It's, I'm not calling for his job or anything like that, and I fully acknowledge that patience is key. He's a second-year quarterback with a first-year head coach in a brand-new offense with his main four targets. Four of his five main targets were not on the team last year. Burton, Robinson, Miller, and Gabriel were elsewhere last year, whether they were college or on other football teams. None of those guys was with us last year, so we're still building the rapport, that relationship, the timing, and so on and so forth. The only person in his top five targets that was on the team a year ago was Tariq Cohen. That's it. So there's some, lack of familiarity and whatnot. I know we're getting deeper and deeper into the season, so that's becoming less and less of an excuse, but it is a factor. So there is some cause for patience and, waiting for them to get it going. But here we are, man. We're winning football games. We have a championship level defense, and we've been doing it. We've had two really, really impressive defensive performances without our best player out on the field. Can you imagine what we could have done against the Jets and the Bills had Khalil Mack been healthy and playing in those football games? It would have been a massacre. So, we have a defense that can carry us to the championship. We just have to have an offense and a quarterback that isn't going to set us back and cost us those games. And right now, to be truthful, I don't exactly trust Trubisky in a big game situation. And that's what worries me about going forward, especially if we get on a postseason run. I'm going to be very nervous about Trubisky and what he does in a playoff game. So that's why I'm kind of giving him the bear down. We're halfway through the season. We're still making mistakes the same way now that we did week 1, week 2, week 3, and so on and so forth. It's been a running theme. We didn't really even see this from him last year. With the wild inaccuracy and all that kind of stuff. I think, honestly, Dave Ragone, our quarterback's coach, really needs to buckle down with Trubisky and talk to him about his mechanics, his fundamentals, because I think that more than anything is what's causing these problems. Trubisky's got a fantastic arm. He can be deadly accurate when kind of like Jay Cutler, even though I hate to make the comparison, but when Cutler was always constantly trying to throw it off his back foot or not even stepping into his throws, who knows what's going to happen with the football. But if Jay had time, if he could step into the throws, the guy could thread a needle with the football. Trubisky is very much the same way, or at least that's what we're seeing. Anytime that Trubisky's trying to go out there and do some like sidearm stuff to try to get underneath a defender or whatever, the ball will not come off his hands the way it's supposed to. Same thing with throwing off his back foot, so on and so forth. He's not as accurate as he needs to be, or as you would like him to be in those situations, and he's doing it a lot, and that's where the problem is. He needs to be better on, and as far as moving in the pocket or responding to pressure and getting the ball out. He's kind of throwing in the way that he maybe is anticipating getting hit. So he's just trying to get the ball out, and his fundamentals go south. When that happens, the ball sails. We don't get the completion, so on and so forth. We're missing wide open receivers and whatnot. So it's just frustrating to watch. Hopefully what we're watching is correctable. I believe that it is, but hopefully I'm right about that, and that it's just a matter of Mitch working through it, and that's where the patience comes in. So there you have it. So that's going to do it for the Week 9 review of the Bears Talk Underground. Our beloved with a 41-9 win over the Buffalo Bills to move to 5-3, staying in first place in the NFC North. And when we come back on Thursday, our good friend, one of my favorite guests, Jeremy Reisman from Pride of Detroit on SB Nation, will be back to preview week number 10 between the Bears and the Lions at Soldier Field for round 1. And then we'll be hearing from him again in a very short amount of time to get ready for Thanksgiving. And I'll talk about what the schedule is going to be for those games, because it's always a little bit different when the Bears play on Thursdays. I'll basically have somewhat of a knee-jerk reaction type show that I'll release on Sunday night, and then the preview show will come out Tuesday night or Wednesday, something like that, so you at least have a day to listen to it before the game kicks off. I mean, the game kicks off 11:30 in the morning on Thursday, so the show has to come out on Wednesday one way or the other. So yeah, there you go. There's the schedule, but we'll talk a bit more about that as it gets closer. So come back on Thursday for my talk with Jeremy Reisman to preview Week 10 for the Bears and the Lions. And until then, my name is Larry D, and this has been the Bears Talk Underground.